end of the line. Notice how elegant this is, so to speak. I've opened the file in line 1. And if I want to iterate over every line in the file, I don't have to very explicitly read all the lines, and iterate over all of the lines. I can combine this into one thought. In Python, you can simply say for line in file. And that's going to have the effect of giving you a for loop that iterates over every line in the file one at a time. And on each iteration, updating the value of this variable line to be Hermione, then Harry, then Ron, then Draco. So this, again, is one of the appealing aspects of it. You don't have to worry about the lines just now and it's really principles, like how do each of the go, but there's these It's not bad. So let me go. How do we use with? It's great problems. Files could get corrupted or accidentally deleted or the like, depending on what happens in your code. So it turns out that you don't strictly need to call close on the file yourself if you take another approach instead. More Pythonic when manipulating files is to do this, to introduce this other keyword called, quite simply, with, that allows you to specify that in this context, I want you to open and automatically close some file. So how do we use with? It simply looks like this. Let me go back to my code here. I've gotten rid of the close line, and I'm now just going to say this instead. Instead of saying file equals open, I'm going to say with open, then the same arguments as before, and somewhat curiously, I'm going to put the variable at the end of the line. Why? That's just the way this is done. You say with, you call the function in question, and then you say as, and specify the name of the variable that should be assigned the return value of open. Then I'm going to go ahead and indent the line underneath so that the line of code that's writing the name is now in the context of this with statement, which just ensures that automatically, if I had more code in this file down below, no longer indented, the file would be automatically closed as soon as line 4 is done executing. So it doesn't has just happened. Say this instead. And enter. Let's type in a name. I'll type in Hermione. Enter. All right. Where did she end up? Well, let me go ahead now and type code of names.txt, which is a file that happens. out. And if I open this in a tab, we'll see there's Hermione. Well, let's go ahead and run names.py once more. I'm going to go ahead and run Python of names.py, enter, and this time I'll type in Harry. Let me go ahead and run it one more time, and this time I'll type in Ron. And now let me go up to names.txt, where hopefully I'll see all three of them here. But no, I've just actually seen Ron. What might explain what happened to Hermione and Harry, even though I'm pretty sure I ran the program 3 times and I definitely wrote the code that writes their name to that file? What's going on here, do you think?
I think because we are not appending them, we should append the names. Since we are writing directly, it is erasing the old content and it is replacing with the last set of characters that we mentioned.
Exactly. Unfortunately, quote unquote W is a little dangerous. Not only will it create the file for you, it will also recreate the file for you every time you open the file in that mode. So if you open the file once and write Hermione, that worked just fine, as we saw. But if you do it again for Harry, if you do it again for Ron, the code is working, but each time it's opening the file and recreating it with brand new contents. So we had one version with Hermione, one version with Harry, and one final version with Ron. But ideally, I think we probably want to be appending, as Vishal says, each of those names to the file, not just clobbering, that is overwriting the file each time. So how can I do this? It's actually a relatively easy fix. Let me go ahead and do this as follows. I'm going to first remove the old version of names.txt, and now I'm going to change my code to do this. I'm going to change the W, quote unquote, to just A, quote unquote, A for append, which means to add to the bottom, to the bottom, to the bottom, again and again. Now let me go ahead and rerun Python of names.py, enter. I'll again start from scratch with Hermione, because I'm creating the file new. Notice that if I now do code of names.txt, enter, we do see that Hermione is back. So after removing the file, it did get recreated, even though I'm using A for. When I do this, move end, which means to add to the bottom, to the bottom, to the bottom, again and again. Now let me go ahead and rerun Python of names.py, enter. I'll again start from scratch with Hermione, because I'm creating the file new. Notice that if I now do code of names.txt, enter, we do see that Hermione is back. So after removing the file, it did get recreated, even though I'm using append, which is good. But now let's see what happens when I go back to my terminal. And this time I run Python of names. After removing the file, it did get recreated, even though if I now do code of names.txt, enter, we do see that Hermione is back. So after removing the file, it did get recreated, even though I'm using append, which is good. But now let's see what happens when I go back to my terminal. And this time I run Python of names.py again, this time typing in Harry. And let me run it one more time, this time typing in Ron. So hopefully this time in that second tab, names.txt, I should now see all three of them. But, this doesn't look ideal. What have I clearly done wrong? Something tells me, even though all three names are there, it's not going to be easy to read those back unless you know where each name ends and begins.
The English format is not correct. The English format is not correct. It's incorrect. It's concatenating them.
It is. Well, it appears to be concatenating, but technically speaking, it's just appending to the file. First Hermione, then Harry, then Ron. It has the effect of combining them back to back, but it's not concatenating per se. It really is just appending. Let's go to another hand here. What really have I done wrong? Or equivalently, how might I fix? It would be nice if there were some kind of gaps between each of the names so we could read them more cleanly.
Hello. We should add a new line before we write new name.
Good. We want to add a new line ourselves. So whereas print by default, recall, always outputs automatically a line ending of \n unless we override it with the named parameter called end, write does not do that. Write takes you literally. And if you say write Hermione, that's it. You're getting the H through the E. If you say write Harry, you get the H through the Y. You don't get any extra new lines automatically. So if you want to have a new line at the end of each of these names, we've got to do that manually. So let me, again, close names.txt, and let me remove the current file. And let me go back up to my code here. And I can fix this in any number of ways, but I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to write out an F string that contains name. and \n at the end. We could do this in different ways. We could manually print just the new line or some other technique, but I'm going to go ahead and use my F strings as I'm in the habit of doing and just print the name and the new line all at once. I'm going to go ahead now and down to my terminal window, run Python of names.py again, enter. We'll type in Hermione. I'm going to run it again, type in Harry. I'm going to type it again, and this time Ron. Now I'm going to run code of names.txt and open that file. And now it looks like the file is a bit cleaner. Indeed, I have each of the name on its own line, as well as a line ending, which ensures that we can separate one from the other. Now, if I were writing code, I bet I could parse, that is, read the previous file by looking at differences between lowercase and uppercase letters, but that's going to get messy quickly. Generally speaking, when storing data, you say write Harry. You get the H through the Y. You don't get any extra new lines automatically. So if you want to have a new line at the end of each of these names, we've got to do that manually. So let me, again, close names.txt, and let me remove the current file. And let me go back up to my code here, and I can fix text. And let me remove the current file to do that manually. So let me, again, close names.txt, and let me remove the current. File, and let me go back up to my code here, and I can fix this in any number of ways, but I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to write out an F string that contains name and \n at the end. We could do this in different ways. We could manually print just the new line or some other technique, but I'm going to go ahead.
Hello.
What's up?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What are you doing?
I'm on my computer. You want to FaceTime?
No, no, I cannot drive.
Are you driving?
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna I'll read it later. I'm gonna talk to what's his name? Edilberto. You there?
Yes, I'm here.
I'm gonna talk to Edilberto. He might come pick you up and start low with him the trailer, the 48-foot right there.
Small one?
Yeah, the 48-foot. Yeah, it's a small. 1323. 21 lines of 7 high 9, 7 cross high 9. So that's 63.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can go if you want to. If you want to try to take the truck back there, you can. I know you will not drive, but it's not too far. Sometimes you got to do it that way. But if you don't feel comfortable to drive, don't drive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, sometimes we don't got no choice, you know. So that way I don't have to tell Edilberto to come get you, so you can just make it to the field, and then
Sí.
I'll tell him to come out, and then